The wind tore across the plains, hurling dust and sand in a frenzy that stung Clara's eyes and bit into her skin. The sun had dipped low, bleeding amber light across the horizon, and every breath she drew tasted of earth and desperation. Her hands, slick with sweat and blood, clutched the reins tighter. Cole, her black stallion, tossed his head, muscles rippling beneath her, nostrils flaring as he galloped hard through the open land. Behind them the sound came again, hoofbeats, deep, rhythmic, relentless. He was gaining. Clara! His voice hit her like a whip, low, commanding, too familiar. The name she'd once loved to hear now cut through her like barbed wire. She didn't look back. Couldn't. Her throat burned from the dry air, from the tears she wouldn't let fall. She had done what she had to do. The leather pouch pressed against her ribs beneath her coat. She could feel it there, like a brand on her skin, the weight of her brother's salvation, the sin of her theft. Ethan's pouch, Ethan's trust, gone. The wind roared louder, whipping her hair free from its braid. The prairie stretched endlessly, a sea of gold and rust, broken only by the jagged shadows of distant mesas. There was no cover, nowhere to hide. She urged Cole faster, felt the horse's breath grow ragged, his stride falter. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Then came the sound she dreaded, the sharp whistle of a rope. It sang through the air, slicing past her ear. She ducked instinctively, but the next moment it coiled around her arm, jerking her backward with brutal force. A cry ripped from her throat as she tumbled from the saddle, crashing into the dust. The rope burned her skin raw, the pain sharp and hot. Cole reared, screamed, then bolted into the distance, disappearing into the red haze of dusk. She rolled onto her side, coughing, vision swimming. The hoofbeat slowed, then stopped beside her. A shadow fell over her. Damn it, Clara. Ethan dismounted in one fluid motion. Even in the fading light, she could see the outline of him. Broad shoulders, dust-caked jeans, hat pulled low. His voice was rough, edged with anger, but something else too. Worry, maybe. She pushed herself up, ignoring the flare of pain in her shoulder. You shouldn't have followed me. He strode closer, boots crunching the dry soil. You think I'd let you run off with what's mine? Clara's laugh was bitter. What's yours? You mean what's his, the man who threatened to hang my brother for debts he couldn't pay? She met his eyes then, defiant even as she trembled. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. His jaw tightened. The wind tugged at the brim of his hat, at the loose strands of her hair. For a heartbeat, the world was still save for their ragged breathing. Her arm throbbed where the rope had bitten deep. She reached for it, wincing as she tried to loosen the knot. Ethan hesitated, then knelt beside her. His hands were steady, practiced as he untangled the coarse rope. His fingers brushed her skin just for a moment, but the heat of that touch sent a shiver through her whole body. She hated that it still did. You hurt me, she whispered. I was trying to stop you. Her voice cracked. Well, you did. He looked up at her then, eyes blazing like the last light on the horizon. Blue, fierce, full of something she couldn't name. You think I don't know why you did it? You think I wouldn't have helped you if you'd just asked? You don't understand, she said, shaking her head. Help means debt. Debt means power. I'm done owing anyone anything. Ethan exhaled slowly, standing to his full height. You're the most stubborn woman I've ever known. Good, she said, rising to face him despite the pain. It's kept me alive. They stood inches apart, the wind swirling dust between them, the fading sun painting fire across their faces. The rope hung limp between them now, like a truce neither of them could name. It hurts, she said softly, eyes locked on his. His expression softened, the anger giving way to something raw and quiet. He reached out, his rough thumb grazing the edge of her jaw, tracing the streak of dirt there. Yeah, he murmured, voice low as the thunder rumbling far off. It hurts. His gaze lingered, searching hers. But don't stop, Clara. You've got to fight for what you believe in. Even if it burns. The words hung between them, heavy and real. She swallowed hard, chest tight. And what if I believe in something I shouldn't? Then God help us both, he said. The sun dipped below the rim of the world, leaving them in the deepening dusk, two silhouettes against an ocean of wind and flame, caught between pain and something far more dangerous. The night settled over the ranch like a heavy blanket, dark and full of secrets. The wind had died, leaving behind the faint creak of the stable door and the quiet hiss of the dying fire. Inside the barn, the air was thick with the scent of hay, leather, and smoke. Clara sat on an overturned feed crate, her arm bare to the shoulder, the skin along it swollen and raw where the rope had torn her. The faint light from the lantern swung above her, throwing soft gold across her face, catching in her tangled hair. She dabbed at the wound with a damp cloth, her breath catching every time the fabric met the open flesh. The barn door groaned open. She didn't have to look to know who it was. Ethan's boots crunched over the straw, slow, deliberate. He paused behind her, and even without turning, she felt the weight of him, his presence, the quiet storm that came with it. "You should have let me do that," he said finally, voice low and rough from the dust and the distance between them. "I've been patching myself up since I was 15, she said, not looking up. "Don't need a rancher to play doctor." "Could have fooled me," he muttered. Something about his tone made her glance back. He was leaning against a post, hat in one hand, the other dragging through his hair. His shirt was open at the throat, a smear of dirt across his jaw where the day had marked him. But his eyes, steady, unreadable, were on her. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said after a long silence. Clara dipped the cloth into the bowl of water again, wrung it out with trembling fingers. "You did what you thought was right. So did I. You stole from me, Clara." Her laugh was small, humorless. "I took back what should have never been yours to begin with." He took a step closer, the sound of his boots on the wood floor sharp and slow. "That's not fair. Neither is this land," she shot back. "It eats up the weak and spits out the rest. You of all people should know that." He stopped beside her then, and she could feel the warmth radiating off him. That same dangerous warmth that had always drawn her in, that made her hate herself for wanting to lean closer. He knelt down, the boards creaking beneath his weight, and reached for her arm. She pulled it back instinctively, but he caught her wrist. Not hard this time, just firm enough to still her trembling. "Let me." For a moment she considered refusing. Then she saw the look in his eyes, not anger, not pride, just quiet determination, and she let her hand fall open. Ethan took the cloth from her, his fingers brushing hers, and began to clean the wound with slow, careful strokes. His touch was gentle, too gentle for the roughness she remembered from the man who'd pulled her off a horse with a rope an hour ago. The heat of his skin against hers burned in a way that had nothing to do with pain. "You always think you've got to carry it all yourself," he said softly. "You don't have to." Clara's voice came out barely above a whisper. "And what happens when I lean on someone and they let go?" He didn't answer right away. The only sound was the drip of water from the cloth and the distant croak of a night bird outside. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. "Then you get up, same as you always do. But maybe next time you don't have to do it alone." She looked at him then, really looked, the exhaustion around his eyes, the fine layer of dust across his shoulders, the scar that ran from his jaw to his neck, a pale memory of some old fight. For all his strength, he looked just as worn and breakable as she felt. "You talk like you're some kind of savior," she murmured. He gave a faint smile. "No, just a fool who can't seem to stop caring." Her chest tightened. She wanted to pull away, to run, to forget the way his voice made her heart ache. But instead she stayed there, caught between sense and surrender. When he tied the clean bandage around her arm, his fingers lingered at her skin, tracing the edge of the fabric as if he couldn't help himself. She inhaled sharply, the air thick between them. "Hurt." "But," she started. But the words failed her. "Don't stop," he finished. His voice barely more than breath. Her pulse stumbled. The fire in the nearby stove crackled, throwing a flicker of orange across his face. He looked up at her, eyes locked on hers, and for a heartbeat the whole world seemed to still. The horses, the wind, the ache in her arm, all of it fell away. "I can't," she whispered. "If I stop, I'll break." Ethan rose slowly, standing over her, the shadow of him spilling across the floor. "Then break," he said, "but do it here, with me." She turned her face toward the glow of the fire, swallowing hard. Her heart hammered so loud it drowned out the night. "You don't know what you're asking." "Maybe not," he said quietly, "but I know what I'm offering." When she finally looked back at him, the distance between them was gone. His hand came to rest lightly against her cheek, rough palm warm, steady. The touch wasn't just a comfort, but it was a question, a promise, a warning. Her breath trembled as she leaned into it, eyes fluttering shut for just a second. The burn of his touch sank deep, not on her skin but in her soul, where it left a mark no storm could wash away.